Welcome to this Two on Your Side Decision 2024 election guide. I'm Claudine Ewing. Two on Your Side is here to help get you ready and hopefully answer some of your questions and concerns about this upcoming election. This is a guide, what you can expect at your polling place, and a look at what you can expect to see on the ballot. We start off with a conversation with Erie County's election commissioners. All eyes are on the presidential race. Ralph, tell me, concerns.
Well, the presidential years are, of course, the year in which we have the greatest turnout and the longest lines that we have at the polling places and on early voting. We've taken a number of measures this year to cut down on lines and to make things run smoothly. Within the past month, everyone who is registered in Erie County should have received a card, which we call the Fast Pass. It's not necessary for an individual to bring that card to the polling location, but if they do, the inspector can scan the barcode and bypass the entire process of having to have your name read out loud and typed into the computer. They scan the barcode and your name would appear, and the process would move along to issuing the ballot.
So many people have raised concerns and fears, things that we didn't hear about 10, 20 years ago, but now there are concerns. People will go to the polls, they will cast their ballot. How do you ensure that the person who is voting is truly registered to vote?
Well, we have trained our inspectors up to this point. We have a few more trainings to finish up, but our inspectors do this every year basically, and we work really hard to make sure that they follow the protocols, that they check that the voter is the person. We have new electronic poll books, so we no longer have the clunky books for people to write in.
Are we expecting that on election day, or are we expecting that during early voting?
Election day, it's very rare that you'll see a long line or any kind of inordinate wait at the polling location. There are a number of polling locations throughout Erie County, and you're required to go to the poll place that is yours specifically assigned.
Let's talk about inspectors. Who are these inspectors? How many do you have, and how well trained are they?
Well, we've got, I think, 3,000 inspectors that'll be working on Election Day plus.
And that's just in Erie County?
Just in Erie County. And we are constantly looking for inspectors, and we have greeters at most of our sites helping folks get to where they need to be. Because
this is such a divided presidential race, are there security concerns, and is this something that you've talked about with your counterparts in Wyoming, Orleans, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, even Niagara counties?
We have, I've spoken with other commissioners in other counties, and we've compared to make sure that a person doesn't cast a ballot in one county, then try to move to another county and cast a ballot as well. But it is also very important to note that the process is totally open. Commissioner Zellner referenced close races. We have had races decided by 1 vote, 5 votes, 12 votes in this county. And what we do is we invite the candidates, we invite their representatives to come and watch and observe everything that occurs. And we'll open up ballots in front of the individuals. We'll count the absentees. We'll do everything possible to make sure that the candidate is comfortable in what the process that we're doing, and also to recognize that the result that we announce and certify is fair and an accurate account.
And if you are registered in Erie County, you can vote at any location for early voting only. The hours are noon to 9 on the weekdays, 9 to 5 Saturday and Sunday. Before early voting started, all of the voting machines have been checked and double-checked. This year, the ballot machines are being used in Erie County. There are newer models, so they're almost identical to what voters have used before, just a little faster. Here's Two on Your Side's Rob Hackford.
There's over 1,000 pieces, from ballot readers to automark machines for people with an impairment, but one by one they're poked and prodded, replicating what record turnout could look like this presidential election.
It's always a high water year.
The machines being used to count your ballot in Erie County are all new this year. Before they go out to your polling place, they're tested for accuracy. They have sample ballots that are fed into the machine to make sure they're accurate.
The new machines are almost identical, but a little faster, according to Deputy Commissioner Howard Johnson, so voters need not worry. The dummy ballots are printed out with hypothetical votes for Donald Trump, Michael Caine, DiPietro, or Baskin.
To ensure that,
that we have the right, election district, the right towns, the right, everything that comes along with it, so that we don't have a wrong machine in the wrong place, and that the ballot is accurate itself.
It's testing the Board of Elections actually does quite often, Johnson said, but always paramount is ensuring fairness and accuracy, wherever the machines end up.
They'll be going to Clarence, they'll be going to Colden, they'll be going to Alden, they'll be going to Buffalo. The information that's stored in this machine is, is not being able to be hacked. Anybody can't just hack into these machines. A fair election, that the process is fair for everyone. So this is done in a bipartisan manner. One Dem, one Republican. We know the volume is going to be high, but we're prepared and we're ready for it.
On your side in Buffalo, Rob Hackford, Channel 2 News.
When you fill out your ballot, you want to make sure you don't make any mistakes. Some voters are concerned about using the wrong kind of marker or pen. Ariane Till with the National Verify team looks into whether Sharpies can be used on ballots.
Several people on social media have warned against using Sharpie markers or pens on ballots, claiming they could bleed through the ballot and invalidate a person's vote. Some have even claimed that the markers are a sign of election fraud. These warnings have led people online to ask whether they can use a Sharpie to fill out their ballot. So let's verify. Can you use a Sharpie to fill out your ballot? These are our sources. Yes, you can use a Sharpie to fill out a ballot. In fact, some election officials recommend it. The Michigan Department of State says using a Sharpie permanent marker to mark a ballot will not invalidate or cancel a ballot or vote. And election officials say many voting machine manufacturers, including Dominion Voting Systems, actually recommend Sharpies over standard ink pens because they dry quickly and the machines can read their ink better. The claims about Sharpies as a sign of election fraud are unfounded. Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich launched an investigation into the use of Sharpies during the 2020 election, but ultimately found that it did not result in disenfranchisement for Arizona voters. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Till.
One ballot measure is drawing a lot of attention from lawmakers and advocacy groups. Proposal 1, also known as Prop 1, it aims to amend the state constitution and protect against unequal treatment. Some critics of it argue that the language is vague and overbroad and will lead to unintended consequences that will spur lengthy legal battles over interpretation. Some supporters say the amendment is narrowly focused on preserving a right to abortion. We wanted to break it down for you. So here's Two on Your Side's Nate Benson.
You're going to see a state measure called Proposal 1, an amendment to protect against unequal treatment. It'll be on either the front bottom of your ballot or on the other side, depending on where you live and how many races there are on those ballots. And Prop 1 reads as follows. This proposal would protect against unequal treatment based on ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, and sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, and pregnancy. It also protects against unequal treatment based on reproductive health care and autonomy. To take a look at Prop 1 from a legal standpoint rather than a hypothetical one, I sought out the Director of Clinical Legal Education at UB Law, Bernadette Gargano, a former law clerk at the Western District of New York, and
I've done a good amount of work with civil rights. In fact, my clinic is about promoting equal protection and civil rights.
Explain Prop 1 to me in a way that doesn't make my brain want to shut down.
Sure. So Prop 1 adds in protection for based on sex, gender, age discrimination, and ethnicity to our New York Constitution.
The current Equal Protections Clause already includes race, color, creed, or religion. And it's very important to note that in New York State, these additional protections being considered in Prop 1 are already state law and have been, in some instances, for decades. But just like other aspects of the political discourse throughout the state and country, there's a few liberties being taken in terms of what this proposal does and doesn't do. So we'll do the lightning round.
Okay.
Does Prop 1 change already existing New York State law?
No.
Does Prop 1 protect against LGBTQ discrimination?
Yes.
Does Prop 1 change state law in terms of participation in any sports, whether it be college or high school?
So no, because again, we already have laws to address that.
Does Prop 1 impact parental rights?
No, it doesn't impact parental rights. I have heard some folks calling it a Parental Replacement Act. That's not correct. Prop 1 doesn't change anything with respect to, for example, a parent and a child who may want certain medical care.
Does Prop 1 guarantee abortion rights in New York State?
It doesn't use the word abortion, but it does talk about pregnancy outcomes and autonomy. So yes, I would think that would cover abortion. And I think that's sort of an important use of language because as we've seen in other states, that some women are even being prosecuted if they have a miscarriage or they can't get medical treatment if they're miscarrying because doctors are too scared to provide the correct treatment.
So from a legal standpoint, Prop 1,
it doesn't change anything we weren't allowed to do before. The law will stay the same, but this will give it greater protection so that if the political winds blow, you can't simply amend a statute or rescind a law.
Turning now to one of our local races here in Erie County. Both candidates for Erie County District Attorney recently took to the debate stage. There were a few tense moments from this debate, and we found ourselves right in the middle as the moderator played a Two on Your Side Investigate story about the decades-old drunk driving arrests of acting DA Mike Kane. Republican James Gardner's campaign has been running a lot of TV ads based on that story, calling Kane a criminal despite the fact that he pleaded guilty to a non-criminal violation of driving while ability impaired. Kane, though, succeeded in putting the attention on the fact that some of the charges from 1985 were dismissed and the record sealed. He said Gardner knew this and kept running the ads anyway and said it was deceitful for him to do that because Gardner is a lawyer.
County town attorney then told my opponent's campaign that the record was inadvertently disclosed and it should be destroyed. I've seen the letter, they have it, they're ignoring it. They're continuing to use the ad and violate a court sealing order. If you are going to violate court orders, and my opponent works for a judge, if you are going to violate court orders and continue to do that, that's the kind of judgment that does not belong in the district attorney's office.
My campaign has done nothing wrong. Channel 2 has done nothing wrong. The only person who's done something wrong in this matter is my opponent. He broke the law. And I understand he wants to say that it was 40 years ago, but what do you call somebody who breaks the law? How can you, as the chief law enforcement officer, deny a defendant accused of the same conduct, the same plea offer that he himself availed himself of?
Well, Kane also took issue with his current picture being manipulated to look like it was a mugshot when the arrest actually happened in 1985. Another proposition you will find on the ballot in Erie County has to do with the extra 1% sales tax that has been on the books for more than 20 years. Two on Your Side's Ron Plants explains Erie County's Proposition 1.
It's left over from those dark days of the 2004-05 Erie County budget battle when we didn't know if there was enough money to keep sheriff's deputies on patrol or county parks open, so the state gave Erie County government the temporary chance to bail itself out with an addition of 1.75% to the then existing 7% sales tax. Now, 2 decades later, that temporary extended 8.75% sales tax, one of the highest in the state, which does not support New York City's transit system. It has to be reauthorized every 2 years by county lawmakers. Currently, it's a supermajority vote, meaning a Republican lawmaker has to go along with the existing 7 majority Democrats to approve it, which Republicans say can lead to effective budget negotiations with the county executive and majority Democrats. If it's less than that supermajority, a referendum or public vote is required.
For decades, the county executive's office has been able to work with the legislature. Both sides of the legislature have been able to work to pass it. There's no reason that would change. All they want to do is make sure that they don't have to work across the aisle.
But under Proposition 1 for voters to decide, there would now be a simple majority vote, and Democrats say that would make sure county spending is, quote, not held hostage when it's needed for vital services at the county level, and that also be shared with local governments and school districts, which also depend on property taxes.
They're asking for a minority group to have a blackball kind of a decision, that they can undermine the majority by just one blackball. And that gives undue power, that's really anti-American, undue power to any group, whether it was one side or the other. It's majority should rule. It's just who's going to pay it is in sales tax or in the property taxes. And people don't want, one of the great things about Buffalo is affordable housing, and we don't want to undermine that by increasing property taxes.
Proposition 1 in Erie County removes the public's right to approve the oversight of their government when it comes to sales tax. It is that simple.
Well, we've received a lot of questions about what you can or cannot do at a polling place. A few viewers reached out asking if a polling place can tell you to cover a shirt or remove a hat. So we had 2 on Your Side's Nate Benson look into it for us.
This season's hot new trends are elections, and people are waiting in line for them. All across Western New York, more than 40,000 in 3 days. And while most people there will be bundled up for that fashionably fall weather, there are still some do's and don'ts on the polling place runway this year.
Can people wear political wares, paraphernalia, hats, clothing, t-shirts?
We ask them not to.
State law says, and stay with me here, no political banner, button, poster, or placard shall be allowed in or upon the polling place or within such 100-foot radius.
Especially once you get to that 100-foot marker, it becomes electioneering for someone to do that.
That would technically be a misdemeanor. But here is where the gray area comes in. You can't wear apparel with specific candidates' names on it. So if I was running for dog catcher in Tonawanda and you supported me, you couldn't wear a Benson 2024 hat. But if I was running for dog catcher in Tonawanda and had a great slogan on a hat that said, "Make dogs sit again," you could wear that according to the way the state law is written.
We basically monitor you to make sure that you aren't basically within the 100-foot marker politicking, which would mean to do something to go above and beyond the wearing of the attire.
And the State Board of Elections have clarified that persons wearing apparel or buttons that include political viewpoints, like support the Second Amendment or marriage equality, do not violate New York's electioneering prohibition unless the issue itself is unambiguously on the ballot in the form of a ballot proposal. In the case of state ballot measure this year, Prop 1, you wouldn't be able to wear something that says vote yes or no Prop 1 to your polling place.
The opinions are meant to be kept at home or outside the 100-foot marker. Anything inside there, the opinions are not necessary, not needed, and won't be tolerated.
So we're asking folks to just use common sense, and they have been. It has gone very, very well this weekend.
So don't wear your political t-shirts or your hats or anything like that, right?
Or be prepared to, put your jacket on over it.
As in the 2020 election, we will be hearing a lot about the number of Electoral College votes needed for a candidate to win the presidential election. But what does that really mean? Here's 2 on Your Side's Pete Gallivan.
Why does the United States use the Electoral College to pick the president? Well, the Founding Fathers were split. Should Congress choose the president, or should it be left to the people? The use of electors was the solution. When you cast your vote for president, you're actually deciding which electors will represent your state. The number of electors in each state is determined by how many seats in Congress that state has. And that number is based on the state's population. So, for example, let's look at California. Every state has 2 senators, so right off the bat, that's 2 electors. California, the most populous state, has 52 representatives in the House. So the Golden State gets 54 total electors. Whichever candidate wins California will get all 54 electoral votes. There are 538 total electoral votes, 535 for the states, and 3 for the District of Columbia. 48 states are winner-take-all. Maine and Nebraska give 2 electoral votes to the statewide winner and 1 for the winner of each congressional district. A simple majority of 270 electoral votes is needed to win. If neither candidate gets to 270, the House of Representatives will determine the president, but each state delegation, regardless of the number of electors, must vote as one. So there are only 50 votes up for grabs. The Senate will determine the vice president with a simple majority vote of all 100 senators. The popular vote winner, by the way, has lost the Electoral College in 2 of the last 6 elections. This has prompted calls to switch to a popular vote system, but that requires a constitutional amendment.
Many of you will be eagerly awaiting the final results on November 5th, but an official winner of the presidential election may not be declared that night. Casey Decker from our Verify team explains why there could be a bit of a wait.
Election Day is November 5th, but we might not know the final results until days later. That doesn't mean something went wrong. It's part of the normal election calendar. Some states take longer than others to process ballots, whether because of low staffing, rules on when they can start counting, or waiting for mailed ballots to arrive. We don't know for sure when each state will be done counting, but they do all have deadlines by which the results need to be finalized and certified. Some states require local elections offices to certify their results the day after the election. Others give them a month. Then the states usually have a few extra days to tally and certify the statewide vote. For presidential elections, federal law requires all states to certify their results by December 11th.
The U.S. Attorney's Office in New York has announced district election officers for 2024. Here in Western New York, Assistant U.S. Attorney Paul Bonanno will oversee all Election Day complaints, voting rights concerns, threats of violence, as well as election fraud. If you have any concerns, the State Attorney General's office is once again opening its election protection hotline. You can call in during early voting or on Election Day. If you have any questions about your absentee, early mail, or in-person ballot. The Attorney General says this hotline helps to ensure that every voice is heard and that the election is free and fair. Two on Your Side is your election night headquarters. On Tuesday, November 5th, we will be live right here on our streaming app, WGRZ Plus, from 8 p.m. until midnight. Our team will be live on the ground, bringing you up-to-the-minute information as all of the results start to come in. We hope that this election guide is helpful before you head to the polls. Stay tuned to Two on Your Side on air and online for the latest Decision 2024 information.